Hello everyone, my name's Neil. If you haven't seen any of my videos, I have end-stage liver cirrhosis, and I also have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and a plethora of other little things that go with it. So if you've seen any of my videos, I try to make these videos to help people that are going through the same thing, mainly because I want people to know that they're not alone. You're not, other people are going through this as well, and maybe not this particular thing, but there are people out there that are dealing with struggling with ailments and things like that, because this road can make you feel like you're all alone. It can make you feel like you're just kind of stuck and with no help, and the confusion and just everything to do with it can just be difficult. And I kind of want to tell my story a little bit, but I've told it before in the past, but I kind of want to get into a little more about how I felt during when this was going on. Kind of the confusion I went through, the pain, the mistakes, the hard part, the troubles. And I kind of want to share this because I want everyone to know that, no matter how positive somebody may seem and how, and maybe from the outside they look normal and fine, but we never know what that person's gone through. Maybe you have some kind of disorder or a chronic illness, and from the outside you look fine, but on the inside you're falling apart. And we go through those things of people, what are people thinking about us? Are people looking at us like, oh, there's nothing wrong with that person, they're faking it? Or people talking about us behind our back. All those things that go through our minds. And, I kind of want to see if I can help out with that a little bit. For me, this all started, my diagnosis was back in 2022. I had been through a rough time in my life. I was through a divorce and lost everything. I made some mistakes, and those things are kind of tough. And I turned to alcohol at that time, and I drank for about 2 to 2.5 years, roughly. This all started about during COVID time, back in about 2000, and I hadn't drank not even a drop for 13 years prior. Since I was in my young 20s, I hadn't even had a sip. So, I went into this full depression, and I just kind of checked out mentally, and things were tough in my life at the time. I didn't talk to anybody. If I had to do it over again, I think that I would try to find someone to talk to back then, but I tried to fix it all on my own. And sometimes we can't. We try so hard. We feel so alone and so isolated, and we feel like we have to do this all alone because nobody would understand. But I can tell you this, throughout the years I've been fighting with this, and going through these different times in and out of hospitals, and almost checking out a few times, and there is hope, and there is positivity to all this in the end. And I have to say that back when I was drinking heavily, I didn't know that my liver was failing at the time. I had no idea. Come to find out, liver disease runs in my family, and I don't have the exact cause of the liver disease. I do know the alcohol didn't help it. Unfortunately, I had a high tolerance, so I did drink a lot more than I should have. But in the amount that I drank, in the 2 to 2.5 years that I drank, and there were twice that I took 3 months during that time where I didn't drink a drop, or I tried to cleanse myself. And, even when I quit, I got lucky. When I quit, I never had an urge to pick it back up, and I got lucky with that. And I can't tell you, alcoholism is a real thing, and it's hard to kick, and it's hard to break. And like I said, I got lucky. There are people that can't kick it, and and they can't kick that habit, and they're fighting so hard to just get a leg up on it. And if you're going through that, and if that's something you're dealing with, that's okay. Keep fighting. You're not alone. You're not the only person going through this. You're not the only one dealing with it. And it is a lonely path, but there are people out there, and you deserve better. Think of it this way. Thinking of, you're rewarding yourself by not drinking, and you're rewarding yourself by eating healthy, because what you're doing is you're giving your body a chance. But it can be hard. But anyway, I had drank heavily for those two years or so, and it was even, I was in bed or I was drinking, one of the two. My doctor had told me my liver had been failing for years prior to that. And, I wouldn't doubt if I had some hepatic encephalopathy, which is ammonia poisoning pretty much in the brain. When your liver goes bad, it stops cleansing, filtering the things, those toxins, and those toxins get to the mind and really mess with you. They can make you go insane. And I've had bouts with that. Just recently, I had a real bad one when I was in the hospital just a few weeks ago. But I had finally got to the point where I'd lost everything, and I'm running this race, and it feels like I'm just running around in circles, and I'm getting nowhere. And finally got to the point where I couldn't breathe. Like, I couldn't walk 10 feet without being completely out of breath. And I thought I had some bronchial infection or something. And I remember I went to a store and somebody said, "You're yellow, your eyes are yellow." And it really hadn't dawned on me, but yeah, my eyes were completely yellow. And, it was kind of a scary situation. And of course, I started doing research on the liver and seeing how it can heal itself. And I'm like, oh, all I got to do is not drink and I'll be better. At this point, it was too late. And I finally went to the hospital. My entire right lung was completely filled. It was filled all the way. They wound up pulling 2.5 liters off the right lung, so it was completely collapsed. They pulled 5 liters off my stomach. And then I spent about 2 weeks in the hospital at that point in time. So then they set me up with a regimen of medicines, lactulose and Xifaxan. Those are the medicines for the ammonia poisoning. One's a really nasty laxative that when you drink it, it binds to the ammonia particles in your body and it flushes it out. And it is terrible tasting. But it works, trust me. I got released. And then my right lung kept filling up with fluid. And I kept winding up having to go back and get the fluid pulled out. And then I threw up blood. And I'm like, what is this? And I had a total of 8 varices binded altogether. Varices are inflamed veins with high pressure. Because what happens is your portal vein, which is the main vein that goes through your liver, gets blocked off and blood flow can't get through it anymore. And that flow has to go somewhere. So it starts pushing its way in different areas, like it'll reopen the umbilical vein. It has pushed its way. I have giant varices all wrapped around my stomach, which makes especially anything to do with having surgery for this very dangerous, which that's coming up here soon. I have to have one put in my stomach, but that's later on in the story. Sneak peek. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so, I kept winding back, and this went on for pretty much through May through September of 2022. And finally, they had given me about 90 days to live. At this time, I had a chest tube in, and I had the chest tube in for 45 days. And the fluid kept on getting infected. And finally, I looked at the nurse, I called her in and I said, get your gait belt. Now, if you know what a gait belt is, a gait belt is something that a nurse uses it's like a belt they wrap around, they hold on to it, so if you fall, they can get a hold of you. But anyway, I told her, I said, get your gait belt, let's go for a walk. And I just started walking up and down the hall. up and down the hall. She had me stepping up one step, down one step, up one step, down one step to get my exercise in. I would go to the sunroom at the end of the hall, and I'd spend time there. And eventually, there was a area on the roof where it was a garden on the roof, and it was beautiful, actually. So finally, I got to the point where I was able to go up there and go outside and enjoy the breeze and stuff, and that was neat. Finally, I got to the point, and that felt so good that I was at the point where I could finally didn't have to have someone go with me. I was still on the same floor, you know, they had rules, but, you know, I was able to go do this. And so this carried on. So finally, I had to make a choice to move, to try to get a liver transplant, because I was turned down for the transplant because, I didn't have a support system where I was. I had just been through a divorce, so again, I didn't have anybody that would be willing to take care of me. And one of the stipulations to getting a liver transplant is you got to have a good support system, and I didn't have it. So then I wound up moving, and in hopes to get it, and things started evening out a little bit. But then I started having trouble swallowing food. Everything I eat would get stuck, and it would just get piled up. Oh, and also in the meantime, I got the portal hypertension, so I got to be careful with that because that creates a lot of pressure. So I take a beta blocker for that. And then I also have 3 hernias. Now, 2 of the hernias are inguinal, which are in the groin. Those were actually caused by the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a few. Now, at this time, I still didn't know I had that, and this swallowing thing started happening, and then I wound up in the hospital again, and I lost a bunch of weight, couldn't eat, and they stretched my esophagus, and they injected Botox into it to try to kill the muscle, because my esophagus muscles were squeezing and not letting go. So finally, I started doing some research on it, and all my life I'd been in pain, just widespread all the way through my whole body. Like my shoulders pop in and out like that and stuff. They pop in and out, my knees, my fingers, I can pull them out of socket and stuff, and goofy things like that, and bend in funny ways. You know, I've always been able to do that. Well, I started looking for things that could like meet all those criterias, and see, I can like bend them all kinds of funny ways. Yes, I am a little bit odd. You clicked on the video. No, I'm kidding. You know, I started doing some research, and I've known all my life I've had these pains, and then I came across someone doing a video on Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I go, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a hereditary thing, and I'm pretty sure my grandmother had it because she had a lot of the things that I had, you know, all the things popping in and out and the constant pain and all that stuff. So I had a good doctor that had got me a referral. It is kind of tough to get a referral, and luckily I got lucky enough that I have a good family health, you know, practitioner or what have you that gave me a referral and listens to me, and that's so important. Finding a doctor that listens to you is so helpful. But anyway, so then I did some, you know, I found that out. She sent me to there, and then you do what's called, I think it's a Brighton scale, and it's these different things that you got to be able to do, and then there's genetic testing involved as well. The hypermobile one has no genetic marker. That's why they base it on this criteria, and there are 14 different versions of it, and luckily I don't have any of the worst ones. I have the hypermobile, which is the most common out of them. What that is, it's a connective tissue disorder. Basically, what that means is my connective tissue doesn't hold so tight. That's why things pop in and out. Also, my organs are not sitting in the way they should. Also, that's why I've got so many varices. It allowed my organs to move out of the way to allow for more room for these varices, which wound up taking the pressure off my liver, which has allowed me to live as long as I have so far. So one disease has helped me survive the other disease, which is just crazy. Um, basically, there are different things. Like when you scar with indents. Like when you get cuts, I have those. Odd stretch marks in random places. I've got those. So anyway, I passed for that. And Ehlers-Danlos syndrome can also cause things like it's harder to get you to fall asleep during anesthesia. Pain medicines don't work the same on you, which totally makes sense because pain medicines never really worked on me. And my alcohol tolerance was ridiculous. So I'd always had these high tolerances. So finally I figured that out. And now I'm at the point where we know what caused the hernias and we know what caused the swallowing issue. There's no cure for it, but at least I know now, and that means a whole lot to me to know. So my point to this whole thing is never give up. It took me over 2 years to finally get all the answers, and I still don't know what exactly caused the liver disease. It's probably it looks like it's a combination of things, of the connective tissue being weak and liver issues running in the family and the drinking at the end there. It was quite a combination, but never give up. Never stop. Just keep on pushing and keep on fighting on. There is hope. Tomorrow could bring something bad, but it could also bring something good. So never give up. Find hope, and that hope could be something tiny. Maybe it's just a wish for the future, something small. Doesn't have to be major. If you can't do these hard things anymore that maybe you used to do. Like I used to be a mechanic and I was electrical diagnostic and did all that stuff with cars. I can't do that anymore. So I build Legos. And then I tend to rebuild them over and over again. Take them back apart, rebuild them. Hey, it's not glamorous, but I enjoy it. So it gives me something to do. So, as for me, I go in next month sometime. I don't have the date yet, but they're going to do surgery to put the feeding tube in my stomach so it's a more permanent location. And there's a lot of risk to that because of the varices. So they have to cut me open. They're going to cut a 4-inch incision. They can't do it the regular way because of all the varices. So they got to be able to see them. So, but anyway, I kind of hope the story helped you out a little bit, to know that you're not alone, and just, like I said, never give up. Be a river, carve your own future. Rivers are always flowing and moving. Ponds are stagnant water, and you get pond scum and you get, algae and stuff like that. Well, keep moving. Don't be a pond, be a river. Keep on moving. Also, I want to thank everybody who's helped me out with my GoFundMe. I'm still working on the possibility of moving. Some things have changed. I'm waiting to do the surgery first and wait for that to heal up. But thank you again for everybody's help. The link for that is in the About section if anybody wants to help with that. No, it's not why I do the videos. I do the videos to help people the best I can. But this has allowed me to be able to get by because I do live off disability, and the YouTube is a way to help me survive day to day from one month to the other. So again, I thank everybody. Have a blessed and wonderful, amazing day. Thank you for all the comments everyone leaves, and please give a like and follow. Stay blessed.